Welcome back to Invest Global. Today we're in the Bitcoin charts looking at price predictions. What are the key levels you should be watching for this immediate short term and the medium long term, using some things that we talked about in yesterday's Global TA video, the free technical analysis course that I put out. There's always people in the space charging thousands and thousands of dollars for courses. I said, hey, this information should be free, so that's why I built Global TA. Yesterday we talked about volume and open interest, how you can use these to identify trends in the market. And actually, just speaking of this, we're here on the daily time frame, but if you look on the 1 hour time frame right here, and you look at this massive trend shift, right? So this is where open interest, it's a perfect example of where you can use this. And right when you identify the trend, so I talked about in that global TI video, first you identify the macro trend. So we flipped bullish right here. We saw a bullish engulfing candle down here. This would have been a nice little long position, honestly, if you followed one of my strategies that I talked about, is looking for bullish engulfing candles on that 1 hour. And then obviously on the bottom of the Bollinger Band, so you want to look for a bullish engulfing candle, basically a larger green candle right here, a small red candle followed by a larger green candle. That's where you potentially would have an entry position. You look on the 5 minute, what's the perfect time? You then would enter in a position with the proper stop loss setup and have a nice little upside gain there. This was a perfect trade setup, right? Like this was, you see this bullish engulfing candle right there. I would have set my stop loss relatively tight, probably like around 1%, and then probably would have pulled profits honestly around this area just to be a bit conservative. Obviously, you could pull 50% and then maybe set a trailing stop loss for the rest here and ride that other 5%, but you get the point there. So right here, when we flipped, so right here at UC 20, so June 13th, right at 20, so 8 o'clock. Obviously, it's Georgia Standard Time here in beautiful Tbilisi, Georgia. You saw this trend shift in open interest. So right here, we were in this bullish trend. Now, this kind of escalation of open interest dropped off right after that, and that's where you could have flipped and pulled some profits, because you see the trend is still there, but the trend is weaker. So the trend is very, very strong when you have high open interest, high volume, whether it's a bearish trend or a bullish trend. But once you flip to low volume, right here you saw it as well, right? Like massive volume spike, then volume kind of dipped down. Then we saw this kind of volume peak up here again, right at like 1 o'clock there, a massive volume spike, but we've kind of been tapering down. The Bollinger Bands have been consolidating. We're moving a bit more sideways. But on the 5 minute chart, this is where I'm potentially looking at a nice little breakout trade. We are seeing a symmetrical triangle here, and it does provide for an interesting opportunity, right? So if you look here, just zoom this up, go like this. We're seeing a bit of a decline right now out of the Bollinger Bands, a bit of a fall, but again, this could be a bit of a symmetrical triangle in my opinion. So if we pull this out, let's just go here. You could draw a couple of different ways, and maybe we broke down, right? Like actually, I was looking at this just a couple of minutes before, and it's been a bit of a trend shift down. But the beautiful thing with the symmetrical triangle is obviously you can make money on both sides, because it's really, in this case, I would say it's more 60-40, but typically it's more 50-50, whether it's going to break towards the upside or the downside. The main thing is having these measure move price targets set up, right? So on a triangle, you measure this base. And by the way, I talk about all these things in Global TA, so go check that out. Again, link for that course is down below in the description. It's for free here on YouTube. So clone this. This is also the upside. Boom. So potentially we could be falling back down to these levels. I think it's a bit less likely. I think it's more likely that we will maybe bounce if we do fall lower right here. So we'll bounce off this area, if I can get this guy to go. We bounce off this area because it's a key level of support, right? So this is obviously on a smaller time frame. You're only looking at the 5 minute time frame. But so in the short term, this is how you can look at it, right? So if we see a further breakdown, I would potentially be setting up a short position, pulling profits here. Otherwise, if we go back into this pattern, like if it's a bit of a fake out and we see something like this happening, where we went down, then we go back up, maybe we touch here, boom, that would be the breakout. And that's where I would be targeting these levels. So right around here, so right around that $42,000 level. But again, that's just in the short term, right? So that would be a potential. You would just set up a nice little long position there, or a short, obviously, right? So the trend is your friend, is the main thing, and you want to look for that volume confirmation. You want to look for open interest to identify the trend. But right now, open interest is falling a bit. So right, you could flip it to the 5 minute and go, okay, if you're looking for just a quick little day trade, open interest is starting to see a rise, right? Like we had this massive dip. Now we're starting to see this rise. We short-term dip right here, right? But keep an eye on that if you're looking for these short-term trades. Open interest and volume is vital. And again, I go into this more in detail in the course, so be sure to check that out. But just to zoom out here in the Bitcoin charts, what are some macro trades, right? So on the 5 minute and 1 hour, yes, you can identify some bullish engulfings, look for a nice entry position, and have a nice trade opportunity there. But at the same time, let me get rid of that. At the same time, what is also important is swing trading, right? So if you're only looking at it from the perspective of a 5 minute chart, not as much. But if you're looking, okay, what just happened, right? So what did we just break out of? Well, we just broke out of the symmetrical triangle that we've been consolidating in for some time. So we saw this massive dump out off of these highs, kind of in this green energy FUD, the Elon FUD, all these different things, this descending wedge, then the symmetrical triangle, consolidated in this range. And again, the measurement price target out of this, just like I spoke on, is the base of these triangles. So just to be a bit conservative, we don't do it all the way to the edge. And you could draw that's the measure move. So I'm looking at these levels because also if you use, see again, with technical analysis, you're looking for multiple points of confluence. And with this, if you pull out the, let's just say we do some Fibonacci retracements. So we do a Fibonacci retracement from these highs. And it might even help to go to the daily time frame here. Let's pop even further out to this daily, zoom in. If we go to these highs and we use a nice little Fibonacci retracement, we can pull that out right here. Go swing high to swing low, down to that wick. You can see this is the area that I'm very, very interested in right out of this triangle. And obviously in the short term, we could see a bit of a retracement and retest back down to this horizontal ray I had drawn out. But that's in the short term, right? Macro, what you're looking for is if you're doing a swing trade, so lower leverage, longer time frame. These are the areas that I'm looking at right here. Is in between this 0.382 and this 0.5. So that's in between the 43,000 and 47,000, and that's why I have that target range set up. So again, Fibonacci's are also very, very important to help you identify these key levels, and whether you're kind of laddering out of the investment, so you're consistently pulling a bit of profits along the way, or you just have a trailing stop loss set up. Those are some levels you can look at, and I mean, what is that? It's a nice little trade opportunity, honestly. Like if you're looking just for a 2x, obviously do your own research, not financial advice, but right here, you'd pull that stop loss up maybe to like 1.5%, 2%, take profit around 15% and 15, 16% in that area. 2x, you just made 30%. You know, these are one of those things where your risk is capped. Like you know your risk there, and especially if you can identify these other trends, you can look at volume confirmed supports. You can look at open interest. These are interesting opportunities, right? So I'm curious at this point in the video what you guys are looking at. What are your price targets? What are your trade setups for Bitcoin? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, we can discuss these things in the Telegram group. The link for Telegram is down below in the description. Or you can send us a tweet at investglobal_IO. But again, the main thing is, you go back here to these open interest on the daily time frame, and you go, okay, we don't really have too much of an indicator. But when you go in these smaller time frames, you can see it a little bit better, right? Like the trend obviously has shifted down. So it's a weaker trend, right? Lower volume, weaker trend. But here on the daily time frame, basically sideways, right? Like basically sideways. That's why I like to look a little bit further. And even if you're looking at the 4-hour chart, right? This is where it is nice because we do have this kind of a steady support here with volume, identifying that, okay, maybe this trend isn't, maybe this trend isn't necessarily confirmed to continue higher. Like I said, we could have this retracement down. So we could have, let me get rid of that for a second. We could have this retracement back down and touch these levels, because this is a key level to look at, right? So this is a level right here that we got rejected at back here in January, and we got rejected. We kind of bounced down here. That was the bottom of this triangle, right? So this area in general is very, very important. But we could get rejected right here in the short term, maybe bounce down off of these levels and move up. So if we saw something like that happening, I would be looking for a nice little trade position. If we get overextended on the Bollinger Bands or the moving averages right here, potentially having an open position here and then having my price target in this area, okay? So that's what I would be looking at. The one other thing I did want to show you is we can get rid of here the Bollinger Bands. We can zoom in a little bit more, is these EMA ribbons, right? So let's pull these out real quick just so you can see it a little bit better. Pulling out the EMAs. We are pretty close to this, right here we're still under what this, let me see this. man, here, I'll just go to a smaller time frame so we can see it a bit better. There we go, a lot nicer. Sorry about all these drawings. Let's go here. Okay, yes. So we are really just broke below this this 20-day moving average. We could come back down here to retest close to this level I talked about right here, around this 50-day moving average. You know, if we pull back further to the 200-day or 100-day, this is where you would be looking for a bit of a retest off of this. See what you would want to be looking for is something where, you know, we'd probably see a touch off that, a touch off that. Potentially we'd have a further breakdown. We would meet up with this 200-day moving average and this point of confluence, and that's where I would be potentially looking for a nice bounce. But again, you have to look at volume, you have to look at open interest. If you see this further drop down, you see open interest spike, this means most likely we will continue to fall, right? So we will continue to fall, maybe to retest back around this 37 to, around the 37K mark, back down to those levels. And again, once we touch there, because the main thing is this push out of where we were, some people would call it like on the sentiment that Elon and Tesla are now going to accept based on these parameters around green energy and all these different things. But again, these same people were just saying, hey, we should ignore what this guy's saying. And I agree that no one person should be able to move the market, but these are always sentimental factors that you have to take into account, right? So if you're just looking at it on the charts, maybe not the best way to play it. But if we do see this retracement back down to these levels, like I said, I would be looking for a bit of a bounce here and potentially pulling some profits around these levels. And then maybe I would say like 50% I would pull there, and then the other I would let ride potentially up to these levels. So it's basically all for this video. Again, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Reach out to us on Telegram, link down below for that in the description. Twitter at investglobal_IO. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe button all. So if you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel to stay up to date, hit the notification bell to stay up to date because it's time-sensitive content. As always, invest global, and until next time.